Episode 1 of the Lifehouse Prison Podcast is with Lauren Sisler. She's an ESPN Emmy Award-winning analyst. You'll see her on the sidelines almost every Saturday at a different college town. But what I love about her is she's just the same or even better off camera. She has a heart for addiction in the recovery world. She has an incredible story, and I cannot wait to share her story with you. All right, hey, episode 1, Lifehouse University Re-Entry Podcast. We have been so excited to do this, and episode 1 has my buddy, Miss Lauren Sisler. Thank you for joining us today.
I'm so excited to be here. We've been talking about this for a while now, and now we're finally sitting here, and I'm just overwhelmed with joy right now, just this opportunity to speak, to talk, and to just share my heart, and for us to share our hearts together.
And I know you're so busy, you know, you're traveling all over the map. My little boys love it. We'll hear them say, "Hey Dad, Lauren's on TV again." You know, Knox and Cole love you, they follow you, they're your biggest fans.
I love it.
And we love your joy. I want to start there. Where does the joy come from? You're known for dancing on the sidelines.
My sideline shimmy?
Yes. Where does this joy, where do you get in the strength to do this?
Well, let's shoot our people straight here. Look, we know life is hard. Life is really hard. Nobody promised us it would be easy. The good Lord above certainly didn't promise us it would be easy. It's difficult, but what I have learned through life is we do have one choice, and that choice is how we're going to respond. What is our response to adversity? What is our response to things when maybe we think something's going to happen and things go in a completely different direction? Maybe we make a mistake. Maybe we choose one thing and maybe we should have opened the door to the other thing. But we have the freedom to choose how we respond. And I feel that joy is such a gift. And if we can rewire our way of thinking and realize that despite the tragedies that we're going to face, the pitfalls, you know, life is all about peaks and valleys, but finding that joy is such a gift. And I feel like, you know, life has thrown us, every single one of us, you know, challenges, curveballs. It's tough. And I would be lying to you if I said it wasn't tough and that joy just is, oh, it comes so natural, yay, you know. But I will say that joy is something that I have inherited and really begun to cherish, and to find that joy. I find so much joy, and where I get a lot of that joy is not so much in the outward things, right? The appearances of, oh, cool, like I'm on the sidelines, I get to go be a sideline reporter and get to interview some of the most prolific coaches and athletes. Like that stuff is cool, right? I mean, that's a cool place to be. But the joy to me comes in the people, and it comes in the stories, and it comes in realizing that we're all part of this together. We are woven into the fabric of humanity together. Like we are all one. As much as people want to divide, we are all in this together. And I find so much joy in those relationships and the people, and learning people's stories and realizing that every single person that you come in contact with has a story. Every story is meaningful, it's authentic, and the way that our life takes us is unique to us, right? And I just find so much joy in being able to be a light for other people, even in their darkest of days. If I can shed just a little bit of hope, a little bit of light, something to allow them to realize, like, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to look at tomorrow as a gift, and the next day as a gift, and the next day and the next day. You know, I feel like we're doing something positive, and I just want to spread joy, and I want to be that beacon of hope for people. And I'm just thankful. I'm thankful, I'm grateful, but as you know, it's not easy waking up every day feeling this way, and we all know that life happens.
Well, I love it though, because you're authentic as off the camera as you are on the camera. First time we met you, Andrew and I were hanging out with you. We're talking about recovery and some different things, and you had that light then. And then we'll see you on the sidelines at Penn State, and you've got that. So let's go behind the scenes a little bit. It's Saturday, you know, you are at a college campus somewhere. What are you doing to prepare? What do you read? What's the Lauren Sisler recipe for drumming, you know, for getting game ready to bring that light onto the field?
Well, let me tell you, it's not nearly as glamorous as people think. It takes a lot of work. And as a former athlete, we can all say we've been has-beens. I'm sure most everybody watching has at least been an athlete at some point in time in their life, or at least gone out and played a game of basketball in the backyard, whatever. Has been. I think, first of all, it is preparation. You said it right there. Preparation is the number one thing that has to go into, the art that is being a sports reporter.
Yeah.
Preparation is key because you're literally learning everything there is to know about a team. And you get basically a week. So I get my assignment on a Sunday. I'm out on the field on a Saturday. So I get basically 6 days to prepare for this team.
Right.
So I'm preparing for one team and the other team, and then, mashing it all together. And then, oh, by the way, when the game's over, it's like balling it up, throwing it in the trash, and starting over. Rinse and repeat, right?
Right.
But the preparation is key. And where a lot of that preparation comes in, yes, you obviously, thank goodness for Google. My gosh, if we didn't have that, that'd be tough. Like going back to the old days with the newspapers. But you do your research. You obviously get a lot of the information from the sports information directors, and you're pulling in all this information. But to me, where we get the best information is when we sit down one-on-one with the coaches and the players. When I can sit and look a coach in the face and say, okay, tell me why this is working, or coach, what's going on here? Why is this not working?
Right.
But then also the stories, and and that is the number one thing. When I step foot out on that football field on Saturdays. Sometimes it's Thursdays and Fridays, but Saturdays, it's kind of my routine, especially when the national anthem plays. It's a special time for me because when I was a former gymnast.
Rutgers University.
The State University of New Jersey, my friends. When I was a gymnast, that was always a time where I would really just go through my breathing exercises and a moment where I could just take it all in. And that is the time where I pray to God.
Yeah.
I talk to my parents, and ultimately I just had this conversation, and I say, please give me the voice and the platform to influence someone's life. What can I say today, even if it's in a 30-second blurb, what can I say today that might impact and inspire someone else? And that's my ultimate goal.
You have limited time too, so you've got to be. Your words.
Concise.
You're there. You got to. It's tough for us to get a picture sometimes, just to send you to, for fun, But you've got a limited amount of time.
And y'all, if you don't know me, I'm not a very concise person. I'm one of those that I talk a lot. My husband likes to point that out. I like to talk. I like to ask questions.
Right.
I like to literally carry conversations on
tough for you to land a plane sometimes.
Sometimes it's so hard. That is the worst. Sticking the landing can sometimes be the worst.
Come on, gymnast.
Let's go. Yeah. So sometimes it's 30 seconds, ready, set, go. And I'm like, how the heck am I going to tell a story in 30 seconds? But, it's part of the craft, and it's something I've had to learn how to do.
Well, you can tell, though, when, just watching you interact with the fans or shooting the T-shirts or the hot dogs, and then it's just, you can tell you care about it. It's very evident.
Yeah.
And so I know that, oftentimes that comes from a place of tragedy, right? You see, God shaped you in a way that it's just different. Your light shines brighter than most. And so take me back. Let's go back to your days at Rutgers. I lost my mom in college. I got that phone call that you're going to talk about. That when my dad said, hey, your mom's sick. She's got leukemia. Probably not going to make it. I received that phone call. But take me back to 3 a.m. at Rutgers University as a gymnast when you got that phone call from your dad.
So this was my second semester, and I'm living my dream. I'm a collegiate gymnast. I had worked so hard for this. I had put in the blood, sweat, and tears, 20, 30 hours a week, and commuting an hour each way to practice, and that was my dream. And that was a dream that I not only had for myself, but with my parents. We invested a lot of time into that. So I am going about life. Life is great. I'm at Rutgers. I'm living out my dream. Things are good, and I always communicate with my parents. We were very close, very, very close. Not a day went by. I tell people this. My parents, best friends. Yeah, my best friends. Literally, my parents tucked me in almost every single night. We tucked me in, we said our prayers till the day that I left for college. Right. Not many kids can say that.
That's a gift.
Because usually when you're like 15, saying, Mom and Dad, get out of my bedroom, that's
a gift.
And so we had that close-knit relationship. So I picked up the phone. My mom always wanted a play-by-play of everything that was happening in gymnastics. And so I called my parents like I always did. I was studying for exams, picked up the phone, called them just after dinner time, and was talking to them on the phone, and then, set my alarm clock, went to bed. Yeah. And as you said, at 3 o'clock, it was just after 3, I wake up to a phone call, and it was dark outside. And I knew this couldn't be good. I look at the caller ID, I scrolled across it, it said, my home phone number, and I answered, and my dad was on the other end, and he said, "Lauren, your mom died." I said, "What? Like, we just talked on the phone. Like, I don't understand. Like, mom's 45 years old. Like, what possibly could have happened?"
Yeah.
And he said, "I can't explain it now. I need you to call your brother and tell him I can't get in touch with him." And my brother was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia at the time, in the military, and so he was in the Navy, and just said, "Get in touch with your brother, get on the next plane you can, and I'll be at the airport to pick you up." And I trusted everything that he said, that he would be at the airport to pick me up. And as soon as I could get to him, run and jump in his arms and feel his embrace, I knew that he could make everything at least feel okay. And so plane touches down in Roanoke. I get outside, and instead it was my uncle and my cousin who came to the airport to pick me up. And you know, as I'm getting into the car thinking, Dad's taking care of things, I'm sure I'm going to see him soon, my uncle has to share the news with me that my dad too had passed away.
Wow. I can't imagine. How old were you?
18.
So you're 18.
18 years old.
And you had the gift of having two parents that loved you, so you're super close to them.
Yeah.
And now you're riding down the road. You've been processing in the airplane. I'm imagining what it's like now to not have a mom. And now you're driving down the road with your uncle, and now you're processing in a matter of seconds. I don't have a father either. Yeah. Both of them have been taken from me immediately. That is, I remember when I heard that story for the first time, I immediately thought, that's where the sparkle comes from. You know, the tragedy, right, being sharpened in you, and now seeing what you get a chance to do on the platform now is a gift too. But that, I know that has got to be still, today, you probably still replay those words from your uncle, right? Hearing those words from your father.
Yeah. Just to have to relive that, and you know, also to not still, even 19 years later, having to piece together what happened on that day. And some things have come to light as new details have emerged, not by coincidence, but some things have transpired that some of those black holes have been filled. And you know, sometimes knowing is healing. You know, it's helped to heal things. But there's still things that we don't know, and you still wonder how and why. How did this happen? Why did this happen? How did we not know?
Yeah, and I do want to talk about overdose, right? It's up 600% in the last year. And I want to talk about what you're doing today to fight against that, you know. But I knew it when I heard your story for the first time. You know, because it's all through the Bible too. You look at all the tragedy in the Bible, everything that's happened, good people, bad people, and then God in His sovereignty comes through and does something beautiful out of it. And so when I was listening to your story for the first time, and then I heard the tragedy. That's it. That's the moment. That's what happened. There's a God moment in there because you have Jesus all over you. It just gets people wet when they're around Lauren Sisler, just like a sponge, right? God just exudes, the love of God exudes out of you, right? And so it's come from that. You've had to hold on to. So let's go back to your faith real quick. I want to hear about where does Jesus come into the picture for you, and where's it at today?
Yeah, you know, I mentioned to you, my parents used to tuck me in. We said our prayers. We were a God-loving family, went to church. I remember just literally sitting there at this church with a congregation of maybe 25 people.
Small church.
Small church. I mean, they had the old marquee up at the front where they would put in the little numbers of you know, who's in attendance and how much the collection offering was for the week before. And just hearing my dad like belt out Amazing Grace. And, you know, all was right in the world, right? We've got God, we've got each other, we've got a family. You know, nothing can come between that. Yeah. And yet it did, and it does, and it will. Yeah. And I think that when I obviously learned of the tragedy and went back to Rutgers just 2 weeks after burying both of my parents, mind you, it was a decision that my aunt and uncle, my auntie Linda, my uncle Mike, who really took me under their wing, that's my mom's sister, said, look, you got to go back. You have a commitment to yourself, your university, your teammates. You got to go back. You got to go back. And I felt, you know, wait a sec, like how, I can't go back. But then it was like, well, it is the right thing. But what I found is early on, the person that was the biggest cheerleader for Christ in our family, especially when things would get down, when my parents would be struggling, I was always, it's okay. We're going to get through this. Through prayer, through faith, we're going to get through this. Sure. And I found in my darkest of days, when I was up against this unbelievable tragedy, I kind of did the whole like waved my shoulder off. I don't need your help, God, you know?
Yeah.
I never stopped believing, but I thought, let me just do this on my own. And I think a lot of it was anger. Like,
Sure.
you know, I felt angry. I felt betrayed. I was mad at, you know, my family. I was mad at my parents for not letting us know. And I know we'll get into more of what happened with them specifically, but gosh, like, why? You know, how? Why? And so there was that time where I was like, I'm going to do this. But it's crazy. I grew up on footprints in the sand. That was like the thing that we shared as a family all the time. It was then that I carried you. And yet I'm like, nah, like, you're not carrying me. I got this. But oh, by the way, the entire time he was carrying me.
Right.
And when finally, when I decided to maybe let my ego go a little bit and my pride and say, you know what? God kind of put me down and he said, okay, I'm going to let you walk. I'm going to let you walk. I got you. I'm going to hold your hand.
But there was some resentment towards God, I'm sure.
Resentment.
Right.
Yeah. Resentment. How does this happen to my family, my parents, two people I love, two people that were loved by, yep, absolutely. Yeah. And so I think there was a lot of that. But what I've discovered in this process is that God does not deliver us from hardships. He delivers us through hardships. And so I think that as you talk about that sparkle, I've been asked before, like, what life would be like if my parents were here. And there's always the what ifs. And I would love for my parents to be here. I would love to get that call after a football game and be like, oh, whoa, you did so. That was my nickname, whoa. You did such a good job, whoa. Yeah.
Okay.
Whoa, whoa. It was W-O-E, whoa. W-O-E, W-O-E. Whoa, like, oh, you know, you did such a great job. Or, you know, oh, pink is such a good color on you. Like, I would love to get those phone calls.
Yeah.
But I also feel, and you talk about the word gift, and I think that joy and gratitude are such a gift. And I think that oftentimes we have to face some of the darkest things and to really just dig deep and to experience loss, to experience disappointment, to experience failures, to truly appreciate the gifts in this lifetime. And I am so thankful that I've been able to take and recognize that it is a gift. This life that we live is a gift. Yeah. The good and the bad is a gift. So no matter what it is you've walked through, no matter how many times you say, I'm never going to do that again. Right. And then you walk right back down that same road like, this life that we live is such a gift. And I truly believe that if we are able to, just take a step back and realize that, the things that we experience, those trials and tribulations are only going to strengthen us. And how can we use those for positive? I believe that, we can walk through doors and we can ignite fires. Right. Not only within ourselves, but other people. And, I think that's truly a blessing.
There was some shame in there I've heard you talk about before. So after your parents died, and we'll get into how they died in a second, but I want to talk about that period of, before you had your big breakthrough with ESPN and the SEC network. I could be wrong, but wasn't there a season of you didn't talk about what had happened with your parents? In 2020, as tragic as COVID was, I had an opportunity to go in and speak to several correctional facilities and be with my people, is what I call them, behind the walls. And the one thing that I would hear over and over again is shame, resentment towards their situation. So let's talk about that a little bit, with how you walk through that and what you learned from it, and to where you're at today.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, shame comes with such a hefty price tag, because shame can bury us, it can silence us, it can speak to us in ways that is so unimaginable and convince us of something that isn't there, that isn't reality, or make us think that we're being, judged in a certain way. And shame was something that I dealt with for a very long time. So as I mentioned, I went back to school 2 weeks later. I went about life. And
2 weeks later?
2 weeks later, okay. After both of my parents died. And
you're raising yourself now.
Oh yeah. Child, didn't even know how to write a check. And now I'm like, whoa, like this is life. Yeah. I think the biggest thing though, through that process, on the outside, I was the, energetic, bubbly, I'm first one on the dance floor, whoop, whoop, let's go.
And you still are, by the way.
I still am.
If you follow your social media, you ain't afraid to throw down some vanilla ice.
Little vanilla ice,
You're not afraid of that. Okay, so anyway,
Yeah, so
That was your
so
personality.
that was my personality, and you know how many times people say, "Oh my gosh, you're so strong. How in the world did you ever get through that? You're so strong. You hear that over and over and over again. And you're like, well, I guess I am strong. Am I strong? Like, am I? But underneath it all, it's like almost like a pit was in my stomach every time people would say I'm strong, and then I almost was just like, well, wait a sec. Like, how can I truly be that strong when I'm living in denial?
Yeah.
I'm living in denial because I didn't want people to know how my parents died on that day of March 24th of 2003, because I had inherited the shame, the same shame that I imagined they were feeling, and why they were silenced into feeling like they couldn't speak up, speak out, and get help.
Yeah, let's go there with your parents real quick on the addiction side of it.
So
fentanyl.
Yep, fentanyl. So my parents were going to a pain management doctor in Roanoke, Virginia, where I'm from. My mom had degenerative disc disease. She had multiple surgeries over the course of time. Dad was dealing with chronic back pain, was also in the military, had some PTSD issues, and was battling through that. And both of them were going to a pain management doctor. Both of them were being prescribed medication. It started out with OxyContin. Eventually it was fentanyl for my mom. And I mean, we're talking 90 days in the mail-in orders, just constantly. And I mean, this was over the course of about 3 or 4 years. And there was really no end game. It was sort of just like, hey, you're in pain, here you go, this will fix it. Well, eventually it worked until it didn't work.
You're living the Dope Sick documentary. I don't know if you saw that, but that one that just came out recently.
The Hulu series is incredible.
I feel like I'm watching that documentary, listening to you about your parents.
Well, in the book, that actually Dope Sick was written based on the author of that in my hometown. My parents are basically the prequel to that documentary.
Yeah.
To the book.
It's an incredible series, by the way. I watched it.
Incredible. Michael Keaton, phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire cast was incredible.
They did a great job describing your parents.
Yeah.
The journey that your parents were on with pain management, doctors really not understanding, drug reps lying about how powerful it was, and then once they're hooked and sick, what do we do? Mm-hmm. Because the stigma's there. I'm an addict and didn't want it. I didn't want this, but I just now what do we do?
Yep.
Right.
The stigma's there.
And I know that everyone listening 9 out of 10 can relate to exactly what your parents were living in that moment.
Yeah. And I think that is the hardest reality when you think about, their particular situation, because they were doing what the doctors told them.
Right.
It does make me feel better, know, and I think they were getting that relief that they needed.
Yeah.
But then after, several months of taking it turned into years, they would wake up and eventually get to the place where it was like, okay, I can't function without this.
Right. This is my new normal.
This is my new normal.
And you didn't know anything about this at the time. 10 years, you really didn't know what was going on.
There were some red flags looking back, but again, I didn't know anything about addiction. Yeah. I mean, we obviously in school, you hear different things, but I didn't know about addiction because drugs and alcohol were not something I participated in.
Right.
I made a choice when I was 15. I'm drugs and alcohol. I'm focused on gymnastics. I really kind of had like everything set out in front of me, or at least I thought. I thought I had everything scripted out. Don't we all?
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
Until we don't.
Yep.
And so with my parents, I think that for them, it was keeping up those appearances. We're that all-American family. It's got it all together. But truly, they were having to medicate and to even be able to function and get out of bed in the morning, to go to church, to go to our gymnastics meets, to do all the things that loving parents would do.
Right.
And I think the problem is our society has put this profile and this label on what an addict is supposed to look like, right? What are we supposed to look like? How are you supposed to know? What are the signs? And the thing is, none of us are exempt from falling into addiction.
Right.
None of us are exempt from the fallout and the things that can come with that.
Yeah.
And ultimately,
it becomes as needed as someone that needs a prescription for glasses.
Yeah.
Someone that drinks coffee every day. So imagine going to work. I don't have my glasses. I don't have my coffee. How are you going to function?
How are you going to function?
It's way worse than that. But it becomes that normal. Where's my glasses? Where's my coffee?
Yep.
Right. Where's
and
my
that's such
opiate?
a good illustration.
And so how, in that world, that's the new normal. Every day I get up, I get my Bible, get my coffee. There's certain routines. Yeah. But when you're living in addiction, and I was there, right? Where's my whatever to get me through?
Yep.
And it becomes the new normal, and it's reality.
The new normal. And I think that, to me, because what ended up happening when I inherited that sort of shame piece from my parents, a lot of my way of thinking. So I'm 18, I go back to school. what I would tell people, the sugar-coated story. Oh, my mom died of respiratory failure. Because that to me sounded better than overdose.
Sure.
Dad died of a heart attack.
Yep.
Oh, that sounds a lot better. Yeah, no, what I justified in my mind was, oh, he died of a heart attack. Yeah, because he did. His heart stopped, but that's because he ingested a lethal amount of fentanyl. And that to me sounded so much better, and that I could keep that, so much so that I told myself over and over and over again that I started to believe it.
Right.
I was believing that in my mind. And I even talked to my teammates and people that I, from 20 years ago, that said, oh, we always thought your dad died of a heart attack until you came out and spoke about it. We never knew that we knew there was some pain issues. We knew they were dealing with some prescription drugs, but never to the degree it was. And I think my biggest fear was that if people knew that my parents died of drug overdose, my legacy was bound in their hands. If they knew, they would judge me, they would think lesser of me, they would think lesser of my brother, the cat's out of the bag, the secret's out. And oh, by the way, when I would go apply for jobs, people would say, oh, wow, like she comes from a family of drug addicts. Oh, let's put a label on it.
They're not normal jobs. Let's be honest, it's a big platform God's given you now. So you're at ESPN, right? SEC Network, AL.com. I don't know if you were there then or not. So when was the time frame when you said, you know what, enough's enough, I'm going to take a stand and I want to share my story?
Yeah, I think really the turning point, I got here in 2011, started working at the local CBS affiliate, CBS 42.
Here in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yep.
Nice.
So I've been here for a decade, y'all.
Okay, all right. Whoa.
Yeah, whoa. Whoa.
All right.
I love it. I think one of the bigger turning points for me, and I tell this story, but a good friend of mine, Timothy Alexander, he former UAB football player, and he lost his ability to walk when he was paralyzed in a car accident. And I was gifted the opportunity to tell his story. And at the time,
What year is this?
This would have been 2013.
Okay, so you've been in Alabama 2 years.
A couple years. No, ESPN didn't come till 2016.
I'm with you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So really what started transpiring, and this is just one of many events that kind of led to this, but ultimately I see the impact. I tell his story, the amount of response in such a positive way, I'm like, whoa.
So you're recording this story, but you've already lived it.
So like,
a little bit.
Well, he so essentially what happened is he got paralyzed in a car accident, and I'm telling this story, his story. And what I saw was like, oh wow, like this is more than just sports. This is more than just the wins and the losses, the victories. Like this is humanity. These are stories. These are people's stories that I'm being gifted the opportunity to be that voice for them. And this was one of the first times he was able to really tell his story on this platform, and then the ripple effect happened. And I mean, Timothy, I call him a brother. He goes out and speaks all over the country to different corporations, to high schools, to teams, whatever, sharing his story. And in many ways, what I saw was this person, me, being so flawed because, oh, by the way, I'm sharing other people's stories, so open, so honest, so transparent. And yet I'm over here like, my story doesn't matter. Nobody cares about my story. My story is irrelevant. But that was the furthest thing from the truth, and that was a lie I kept telling myself until I realized, wait a sec, if his story can inspire someone, why can't mine?
And you started to feel joy from it, giving your life away, your story away.
Yep.
The reciprocal part was the infusion of a gift from God, because he promises that. You want to find life, give it away, right? Jesus always said that. Hey, you want your life? Go give yours away. And there's something magical that happens.
Oh, that's powerful.
When you do that.
I love that.
And so that's from the 30,000 foot view of watching your life. That's the gift I believe that God's given you. As you give your life away, you're like, man, I have this supernatural joy that has been given to me to give away. So you start sharing that, and you start finding some relief from it. I don't know. How would you describe it?
Relief, and I love what you said, joy, because we're coming full circle here from when we started this. There's so much power in healing power, right? Because like you said, you're giving something away. You're giving away some of your most vulnerable pieces, the pieces of your life, and when you're able to just let people see you from the inside out, suddenly it's like those shackles of shame have just like completely come undone. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna go speak it to the dang world.
Right.
Like, let's go.
That became a high that was, I'm sure those endorphins, the first time
Yeah.
you shared that, you saw somebody get some relief from it.
Yeah.
Because in addiction, they teach you that. You'll know that you're growing and you're to get some relief from your addiction when you share it with another person.
Yeah.
Right? That's
And it's a process,
that's
right?
the 12th step.
Yeah.
They tell you, hey, you'll know when you're there when you're giving yours away.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's incredible.
That's where you find that.
And notice you said 12th step. So
Right.
there's a lot of steps that come before it.
Not before it.
And people have to realize, like, I'm not sitting here right now just sharing my story. Like, remember, my parents died 19 years ago.
Right.
Like, this didn't happen overnight. If you would have asked me if I could have sat here at this table 10, 15 years ago, heck no.
Yeah.
So what it started, let me tell one person, now I'm going to tell 2 people, now I'm going to tell 10 people.
Yeah.
And then it just, I mean, it's like, it catches fire and you're like, I don't want to stop, because even if one person hears my story, I went and spoke to an auditorium full of 600 kids today. Mm-hmm. Even if one of those kids heard my story and says, you know what, I'm going to make a different choice, or I'm going to look at my life differently and my circumstances differently. I'm not going to sit here and throw myself a pity party, because, oh, by the way, I threw myself plenty of pity parties.
Right.
And when I went back to Rutgers, I threw myself a pity party and said, know what, people are going to, her parents died, like, she gets a hall pass. Heck no.
Right.
Like, you can't live in that world forever.
Right.
Eventually you have to stand up and take the first step. And that's what I realized through this process. And then when that shame and started sharing, those shackles came off. And I'm telling you, like, I just, when people can be vulnerable and can allow that transparency, the weight of the world can just be lifted, and there's so much healing in it. But again, it takes time. It's a journey, and I just encourage people, start somewhere. You just got to start baby steps.
Right, and you're so passionate about that. I love that, because you're so much more than just an ESPN journalist, right? What does she know about life?
Yeah,
right.
And I appreciate that, because that is something that wears on me a lot.
Tell me about it. Why is that?
Because I think that, again, this is a life full of labels. We get labeled things, right? I go stand up on stage. Yeah.
Addict.
Yeah.
Former employee.
Yeah.
Whatever we used to be, right?
Yep. We literally walk around this world, this life of ours, with labels that people get to decide for us. Why the heck is someone else deciding what label I'm going to wear? And that's where I realized, like, that's not how we're going to play ball here. And so, like, take that nameplate off the back of that jersey that says addict, that says, incarcerated, that says, this, that, and the other.
DUI.
Divorce. Yeah.
Right.
You rip that off, and you get to put your nameplate on there, and you get to own it. That is who you are. And no matter the amount of mistakes that you've made, no matter how much that you have struggled with, that you feel guilty about, that you feel remorseful about, or that you just feel like, oh my gosh, like, why did I go this direction? Why did I not try something else? Or why did I make this mistake? This isn't a life about second chances. I mean, this is second chances, 5 chances, 10 chances. Because, oh, by the way, we've all had our chances, and I've blown my chances a million times, because we're flawed. That's who we are as human beings. But don't allow someone else to define your self-worth, because to me, that is giving someone else the control when you are the one that can step up to the plate. It's between you and the good Lord above.
Yeah.
And let the rest take care of itself.
Well, it's the heartbeat of the gospel. I love what you said. I want to rip the name off of whatever label they've given me. When God comes in, and looks at our mess, and we say, I'm fully going to give him my mess, right? No matter where we're at in life, right? He takes that and puts his name on it. Now we are his son. We're in this family now of his, right? And he begins to then change everything about our future in that moment.
Yep.
And I think that's the hope, and that's why I wanted to sit down with you today, is that you're doing that constantly. And one thing I hope you realize is that you're tucking many people into bed at night, right? Like your parents used to do for you, by you sharing your hope, your story, what they did for you. You're doing that now with the 600 kids today, whether you know it or not. They're going to go to bed tonight, and you've tucked them in.
Oh my
right?
gosh, you're going to make me cry.
You are. With some things,
I'm an ugly crier.
some things you're working on behind the scenes right now, that you're going to tuck people in. So know that, and I hope that you continue to see that gift that God's given you to be able to do this. It's so fun to see, because we know, like, what's the nickname again? What was it? Whoa, whoa?
Whoa, whoa.
We know the whoa, whoa behind the scenes, and I love that. You're getting to do some cool things right now. Tell me about it. Like what?
Man, lots of good stuff. Life is good. It's crazy because obviously the $1 million question, well, what do you do in the off season? Well, trust me, I stay plenty busy.
Yeah, no doubt.
I am all over the place, speaking at various events, heading out to California. I got one in New Jersey next week. So all over the place, but actually working on a book right now. Yeah. So that's, still in the.
Is there a title?
Not yet, TBD. So, if anybody's got some ideas, I think that will definitely come. Being prayerful over that to figure out.
You just got married. I mean to cut you off, but John, I love.
Yes, got married twice, which is crazy. Yeah. We got married in the COVID. Chapel over at Church of the Highlands here. Beautiful ceremony, private ceremony. Never would have planned it that way, but the good Lord had His hands in that, and then we did our celebration this last year, so it was a lot of fun. So, John's been really great and just very supportive in this process, and just people like yourself that have a heart for ministry, have a heart for people and helping people to realize their dreams, goals, and aspirations, and that they don't have to be defined by their circumstances. And I think that's what I realized. My parents aren't defined by how they died, but by how they lived their lives. So how do we carry that torch on? How do we continue to carry that legacy on through the lives that we live every day?
Absolutely. That's where you're going to find your healing and traction. One thing before we close, there's an inmate, and I can't say his name. He's in St. Louis, Missouri, incarcerated today. He wants to know who picks out your shoes when you are on TV.
Can I show him my shoes?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to pop up my shoe.
Yeah,
I'm going to take my shoe off. Hello,
right.
Here we go. Whoop, whoop.
Uh-oh, I got some bedazzles
I got
on
the bling blangers on today.
That was a question we got.
Silver, so. Right here. Who picks out my shoes? First of all, my man, thank you for the question. I love it because shoes are my game. Like, I got to have comfortable shoes. I don't do heels. Like, forget that mess. Got to be comfortable because, by the way, like, things happen on the sideline. Sometimes you have to dunk, dink, and dive. And, like, I've been in the line of fire.
Hit yet? Have you been tackled?
There's been a couple
over?
times. Like, I'm terrified that I'm going to get an ACL ripped out from underneath me at some point in time. It's terrifying. But with that being said, I pick out my shoes, and I have to say that's something that my auntie Linda and I have shared. I told you
she's a big part of your life.
Big part of my life, and has just really helped me to rise from the ashes, has helped me to redefine that pathway to success, and again, has been a big part of that. But her and I share that love for, fashion and clothes and whatever, but it's always when I find like a cool pair of shoes, or she'll see something, she'll be like, hey, what do you think about these? And so usually that's where the shoe game comes from. Shoe game strong? Can I get it? Yeah. I love it.
So great. Thank you. We love you. You're such a good friend.
I love y'all, and I love all you guys. I love every single one of you who's watching right now. Thank you all for your heart. Keep up the faith, the hope, and just keep pushing forward, y'all, because I can tell you better days are coming. That bright light, you talk about that.
Yeah.
Soak in that bright light, because one day you're going to be that bright light. So.
Yes, thank you. Episode 1, Lifehouse University Reentry Podcast. Lauren Sisler, thank you for your time.
We started from the bottom, now we're here.
So fun. Man, thanks again to Lauren for sharing her story. What a powerful testimony. Lost both parents in the same night of a drug overdose. And so, hey, if you have any follow-up questions for Lauren since you've watched that, email me at matt.bostic@thelifehouse.fm. And on that website, you can click on that link and you can actually fill out an application. If Lifehouse is something that you want to attend once you get out of your stay there at whatever correctional facility that you're at, click on the Lifehouse link, fill out the pre-application, and on there, my email is there. Ask me any questions. I can't wait to share the next guest with you with the Lifehouse Reentry Prison Podcast.